And what we're seeing with NZME is, well, the NZME board is under siege. The shareholders demanding all sorts of new performance and want some changes. So it's largely, you could say it's under attack, if you like. NZME is under attack. And it's basically the battle for control of the board. One shareholder has mounted a robust defence of its performance leadership. And it's the Canadian expatriate businessman, Jim Grennan, who is wanting big changes at NZME. Former New Zealand Herald editor and media academic Dr. Gavin Ellis joins us now. Gavin, g'day. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Duncan. How are you?
Very well. Nice to have you on. Thanks for making yourself available, Gavin. What's going on here? How would you describe it to people listening this morning? What do you say is going on there?
Well, I think that you can look at it on various levels, Duncan. I mean, I think on a basic level, the loss incurred by NZME in the last financial year was a wake-up call for shareholders, I think. Media companies generally haven't been performing all that well, but for a company the size of NZME to incur a loss would have been a bit of an electric shock to most shareholders. And I think that leads to a natural reaction to look at, well, how do we change that? And one of the first targets you look at is the board doing the right thing. So that's it on one level. The other level, and this is very much in the realm of speculation, I think, is that Jim Grennan is looking to take editorial control of one of the most powerful media outlets in the country. We've yet to have any confirmation of that, and I think that there would be a lot of pushback if he tried to simply use it as a sort of an Elon Musk mouthpiece. So let's wait and see on that one. But clearly, it looks as though he's got the numbers for a complete board clean-out.
Yeah, which then you take up your second point, which you say, which you point to as potential speculation. But I think it's reasonably well-informed speculation that he's not doing this because he wants to get a car park in the building. He's doing this because he wants to change the very direction of arguably New Zealand's biggest and most powerful organ, which of course is certainly has been the Herald, and he wants changes. He's looking at the vehicle, thinking, no, this is not what we want anymore. I want something more aggressive in the space that I agree on, and I want to change this. I want to change the whole nature of the approach. I think you're probably bang on that.
He hasn't actually said the things I agree on. What he's said is, I want to see better journalism. I want to see more facts, less opinion, and so on. Now, nothing in those comments are really cause for undue concern. But if the subtext is that he wants it to become his own mouthpiece, then I think there are serious issues in that, given the, two things. A, the existing power of the Herald, but secondly, we're a small country and we don't have the multiplicity of very strong voices that you might find in the UK or the United States or Canada or Australia. So, a single newspaper town, and all of our cities are single newspaper cities. That's a very, very powerful instrument, and it needs to be handled with great caution. And I speak from experience in that. I was always aware, when I was editor of the Herald, of the power to influence that you have, and you've really got to be really careful how you exercise that. Now, I think that's the responsibility of an editor, not the chairman of a board.
Do you feel like, you look at these different surveys around, Gavin, about trust in the media having collapsed, and I see the last survey I looked at, I think we were at the very bottom. I think media was now at the very bottom, which it's a sad state of affairs because we've now gone below politicians, I think. We're just sitting below politicians now, at the very bottom, which it's happened pretty rapidly.
Yeah, and of course that's not just a New Zealand phenomenon. It's worldwide. The latest Edelman Trust Barometer that came out a week or so ago it's really interesting, Duncan, because what it's highlighting this time is a sense of grievance that politicians, business, the media are making things worse for people. And that's a sorry state of affairs. It's also, really complex because you can't just isolate the media. You've got to look across the board at these effects. But one of the things that I found really interesting about that latest survey from Edelman is that they say that grievance turns things into a zero-sum game. In other words, there's no room for compromise. Do what I want, or I'm not going to support you. And you can understand how that's a natural result of a sense of grievance. But that ain't good for a society either. Zero-sum games tend to have one winner, one loser.
Yes,
society shouldn't be like that.
No, and I wonder if this is what Jim Grennan wants, that he wants the Herald to reflect more of his views. He wants the Herald to be more reflective of voices that aren't carried in there at the moment, which are voices that he might be listening to somewhere else or part of his friend group or business group. He wants them to be more broader, and he perhaps sees them as being too weak. I don't know, but what's your take on that?
Well, yeah. Look, I'm with you. I don't know, and that's the problem. And I really don't think that Jim Grennan should wait until the board meeting on April 29 to come out and say exactly what he intends for the Herald, and not only for the Herald, for News Talk ZB and their other assets as well. And I think that, I made the point in the column that I wrote on my website that, this is not just an ordinary company. This is a company that has responsibilities that go beyond the financial. It has social and civic responsibilities. And I think he really owes it to the people of New Zealand to say exactly what he plans. Now, I can understand he's got one problem, and that is that he must be really careful not to trigger the takeover instruments, that the stock exchange has, where, if you do certain things, you've got to make a bid for the whole of the company.
Yes.
And he's been very astute in that, not triggering any of those elements. But he's got to somehow tell the people of New Zealand just exactly what he has in mind, because frankly, he owes it to us. And
well, the public interest clause
everybody.
here, isn't there? Yeah, well, there's a public. I mean, the Herald is not something that operates in private. This is something that is outward facing. The media is outward facing. That we're doing it to inform, and to pass on as much information as possible as is resourced. Now, what does he intend to do to that platform? What does he intend to do? Want to take it digital only? What would that mean for the Herald? Does the Herald sell many papers?
Well, it's selling a hell of a lot less than it used to. But the amount of money that its print operations generate are still much, much more than their digital operations. So, sure, ultimately there won't be newspapers. We know that. And I get nostalgic at times, but I'm also realistic that newspapers are dying, but they ain't dead yet, and the Herald can't afford to kill it off because it makes over $100 million a year for them in revenue. Now, you can't just suddenly cut that out unless you've got something to take its place. And digital at the moment, while we're still hostage to the likes of Facebook and Google taking most of the digital advertising money out of the country, there isn't a replacement instantly available. So if they're wise, what they'll do is they'll be looking for ways of increasing digital revenue in a direct proportion to the losses, the drop that they might experience in their print revenue. In other words, they've got to breathe through their noses. They need to take time over that.
Yeah, it's all very well getting rid of legacy media and historical media and their tools and vehicles, or whatever, like the newspaper, but digital doesn't replace it, because if you look at the revenue, and I've seen this over in television, radio as well, it's minuscule, and the money that's gone into digital has gone into offshore digital, gone into Facebook and different social media sites, which doesn't benefit New Zealanders and doesn't benefit New Zealand media, and it means that we lose journalists, we lose media companies, and it just gets smaller and smaller.